Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking all about yearly homeschool planning. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I really enjoy digging into everything during the summer, anticipating what I'm going to need. And I definitely have figured some things out and grown more confident as the years have gone by as to what I need to prep. I mean, really the first thing I always do is I grab a calendar. I print one off the internet and I start with pencil kind of mapping out my year. And so we're going to talk about exactly how I do this. The first thing you'll see when we kind of dive into planning that is I use primarily Sonlight curriculum, which you might know already if you follow my channel. And some of the wonderful things about Sonlight is that it is very planned out, right? There's these instructor guides with all these grids. And I love that about Sonlight. I mean, you might also be thinking, well, why do you need to do a bunch of planning? Because Sonlight kind of plans it for you. And yes, they do, but there are some key planning things that I do that really help me throughout the year. It helps me see kind of where things are gonna land. So I'm not really surprised. I'm not like, oh my gosh, we're behind. It's like, no, I anticipated these things in my schedule in October or whatever it is so that I can plan accordingly. So that's enough intro for that, but let's just hop into how I actually do this, how I yearly plan. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you've been coming for a while, all the things. I'm so excited to chat with you today about yearly homeschool planning. So a basic outline of what I'm going to cover is I'm going to briefly talk about my planner, which I use the Sonlight planner. My son drew me this because he knows I like books. And so anyway, this is just a flex binder with all of my planning sheets. So I have a planner. That's the first thing I need to set up. The next big thing I do is kind of think about goals for my kids, for our homeschool, before I pull out my yearly calendar. And then I start pulling out my yearly calendar and just writing on here. But then I'm not done. I can get the calendar set up, and then there's two other things that I do that really set me up. Is I try to plan out and anticipate fun. Like what kinds of things we're gonna do. And I'm actually not that good at this. This is one of my goals for the upcoming year is to plan out more fun and to also plan out like a plan B, like what I'm going to do when I feel overwhelmed. So that's a little outline of what I'm gonna share with you today. So let's just hop into the first thing I do is I set up my planner. Like I said, I'm going with the Sonlight planner, which I haven't even taken it out of the shrink wrap yet, but I used it last year. I can upload a video of that. I'm actually planning on doing a new video here shortly where I talk about what I learned from the first year of using the Sonlight planner, how I'm gonna use it maybe a little bit differently, but I set up my planner early on because of some of these other steps. So I have planner stuff coming, but no, that's the first thing I'm going to be doing. I intended to have it done before I filmed this video, but it just didn't happen, and that's okay. And so the next thing I tend to do, which is also going to be another video, which is already on the list for mid-July, is I'm going to share with you my goals for the upcoming year. And I think this is a place that is very useful to pause in the planning and just do a lot of good reflection. I tend to reflect on the previous year if I haven't done that yet. And then I tend to reflect on what's coming. I tend to think about maybe any gaps that I feel like my kids have, or maybe we were really not very good at doing experiments last year, so I'm going to put more effort into experiments. Kind of those ideas of kind of big picture goals for my homeschool for the upcoming year, as well as individual kids. And so I have a video coming with that. So I do that before I yearly plan because it can make a difference as to how I set up things. So I set up my planner and I set up my goals, and then I get into the yearly planning, which is really kind of the meat of this video. So let's just camp here for a second. How do I set this up? So always start with your state requirements. So for me, where I live, I have to homeschool 172 days of at least 4 hours a day. So that's kind of my guardrails, if you will. And so I then will look at what I have planned. And in order to fit all that stuff in, what day do I need to start and how long do I need to go? So for me, and especially the fact that I use Sonlight, I love this. So I end up, which I know you guys are not going to be able to see this. Actually, maybe I'll pop up, that's what I'll do. I'll pop up a picture here and show you that I start with pencil and I start labeling the weeks, like week 1, week 2, week 3. And what I mean by those are the Sonlight weeks. We use 4-day HBL, History, Bible, Literature, as well as 4-day language arts, and then 5-day science. And so my goal is to stay roughly on target. Now, I know I don't have to. It can be looser than that. But I kind of like that. I like having these ideas of these are the Sonlight weeks we're going to be doing in October. For instance, will be Sonlight weeks 11 to 14, which I'm going to share this document in just a second. I like kind of mapping it out. What I find that is very useful when I'm looking at this yearly plan is, one, vacations. To be able to block off when we're taking Christmas, Thanksgiving. We might be taking a vacation, my husband and I, in the fall sometime for our 10-year anniversary. Even though we just celebrated 12 years, it was 10 years in 2021 and it got all pushed back. Anyway, and so we might be doing that in the fall. And so I made a week for it, just in case. If we don't decide to do it, if we push it to next summer, whatever, then I'll just be a week ahead and it'll be totally fine. But I wanted to have it in there just in case, so I put it there. And then this year, I put in an Advent section because I have struggled with this every year when it comes to Christmas time. I don't know if I should take a break from like history and science. If I take all of December off from those things, then I'm going to need a whole other month at the end of my school year. So what I decided to do is to actually set it up as those weeks for like Advent. And I'm tentatively planning on using the Sonlight Advent studies. We haven't used those in the past, but they're 4 weeks long. So you can see I have it labeled here of the 4 weeks. And my plan is to continue with math and language arts a bit in there, but drop the history and the science. So to give ourselves a little bit more room, because obviously the Advent study is not as robust as the HBL and the science put together. So we will have less going on in December. And in order to do that, I had to start a little bit earlier because I do like being about halfway come Christmas break. I like finishing week 1 through 18 by the time we get to the end of December. And so I have it set up that way, and it just kind of works with our schedule. And then it goes into the spring and we have 1 week for spring break, and then we have a testing week. And so I have it all set up like that. So this is a really important part for me because it sets my year and it sets my months, which I'll get back to why it matters this year because I have a little bit more fun put in there and I'm doing it a little bit more strategically. And then I also consider things like extracurriculars. Like, when are we going to do some of these things? Do we have the space to do them? And yes is the answer. We're probably going to do ballet for my daughter year round again. And my twins are now 5, 5.5, and they'll probably want to start some sports, and my son is doing some sports. So I want to look at some of that stuff and know my own capacity because I'm not good at loading myself down. And so I can look at my yearly schedule and kind of assess like extracurriculars as well. And then, then I pick a start date and an end date. And this year, it looks like I have decided to start on July 20th. That's my plan, is to start July 20th, which is a Thursday, which I know a lot of people give this advice, but I like having a very short week. So we'll probably just do a Thursday, Friday short week. And obviously I'm not putting like all of Sonlight week 1 in that. I'm actually just going to do week 1 over Thursday, Friday, and then the next week in July. And so that's when we're starting. And if we follow this schedule, including the Advent, we should be done mid-May and then have the last week for a testing week. So that's going kind of end of July to end of May. And so that's perfect for us. That's exactly what we need. I feel like in terms of the ages of my kids, having a huge summer break would not work for us, but having too short of a summer break would not work for me. I need more of a break. So I feel like this sets me up to have about like a 6, 7, 8 week summer break. Okay, so that's the big part. This document, right? So that I could be done here. I could be done with the video, but this is where the magic happens. This is the fun part of yearly planning. All right, so I have it all lined out on my calendar. I can put that in my planner. I can do all the things. But now, how can I make this more fun, right? Because I'm actually a type of person who, I like a schedule. I like checking boxes. I'm a little more type A when it comes to being a homeschool mom, and I'm not super awesome at spontaneous right now. I used to be better. But what I can do is I can plan in some stuff. I just need to pre-think it. And this is where yearly planning makes a huge difference. Is I have this document, which I also can zoom in on a bit for you guys, is I just gridded out a piece of paper and I wrote the months of the year on it. And this is such a first draft, you guys. I'll show it to you and you can see it's like, it's a brainstorm session, but that's good. That's exactly what I needed. And so it's revealed a few things to me. So what I do first is I'll look at the months. So I have like here, like August and September. And you can see in the corner, I have written the weeks that we are planning for Sonlight for that. So like August, it's Sonlight weeks 2 to 5, which then I check all my stuff, okay? If you saw my family subject videos, we're doing HBLC and Science C for my big kids and HBLK and Science K for my little kids. And during weeks 2 to 5 for my big kids, we are studying Vikings. That's a lot of the Vikings section. There's a read aloud that is it's the Sticks Across the Chimney read aloud, which I also check all my read aloud lists. And that's from week 3 to 6. So it falls in August. So we have a historic read aloud. We're studying the Vikings. We have actually some hands-on history kits. So that's what I also did too, is I went through all of my hands-on history kits and I found out what weeks those were scheduled for, but I also plan on moving them where I want them. So say I want August to kind of focus on Vikings. I can also look up some documentaries. I can pull all the crafts into that one month and we can just really have a craft heavy month and we can discuss Vikings. We can even maybe cook some Viking food, things like that. We can even maybe do like a book party, very like Brave Writer on that book that I already read for Sonlight. So it's like the idea of how do I take what we're already doing and make it a little bit more fun. Like I don't want to add stuff. I have plenty of stuff. If anybody watched all of my curriculum videos, there's plenty. There's plenty of stuff. It's wonderful. So for me, it's more of the organizing of the stuff and then making what we're already planning on doing special. So that's just one idea. And then you can see, I'm really excited actually for September because that's when we're going to study castles and knights. And we are reading The Tales of Robin Hood. That's already a scheduled Sonlight read aloud for week 7 to 8. But then I looked up all the movies that are appropriate for my kids. I mean, I really want to share some that are from my childhood, like Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and Prince of Thieves, all of those, which we will when we get to Middle Ages again. But for now, there's like the Tom and Jerry one, there's the classic Disney one, and then there's 2 like really old school ones, and I can get one on Disney Plus, and I can get one from the library or something like that. So we're gonna do a movie comparison, a like movie marathon. My son is so excited. He's like, Mom, we're gonna movie marathon for school? And I was like, yes. Does that sound fun? He's like, yes. And so that's the plan, is we're going to try and make that month more special by spotlighting movies and things like that. So that's my tentative plan. And then other months, I think that we're going to be studying like the Wright brothers for HBLC in April. And there is a hands-on history craft for that, but I think there's like some airplane jet type museum here in town that we could go to. And that could be another aspect of that month. We could also watch some documentaries. I mean, I think for me, it's just having the options and planning out the options. Like I'm going to make a spreadsheet with links and ideas of documentaries that we could watch. And then if I don't use it, I don't use it. But I don't have to plan it out in April. I already have a plan because I spent some time this summer doing it. So this is fun to me. I love this because, so I've only kind of focused on the HBLC, but I also have the HBLK. So we're going to be bringing some intro to world cultures to our plans. Maybe that'll be February, is we'll do something that pulls more from the twins curriculum. And then there's science. We have so much science going on for both levels, and they're both studying like weather at some point this year. And so I think we could do a really cool weather unit, even maybe visit a weather station. There's cool ones up in the mountains here, but there's also just kind of classic weather stations. And so it's like, these are my ideas. And this is part of my planning. So fun, that's kind of a big category for yearly planning. Now to take it on the flip side of that. So I want to plan this year. This is the first time I'm planning on doing this. And so obviously I'm not sure how this is gonna go, but I'm gonna share it with you anyway, because that's what I'm doing, is I'm gonna plan for overwhelm. So I've found over the past 3 to 4 years, every year there's been something. Either my husband's health, either moving, changing churches, all sorts of things have come up every year. So why should I expect that that's not going to happen this year? It's going to happen, probably. Hopefully not, but hopefully not to a big extent. But I feel like it's actually healthier for me to anticipate that. And so what I'm planning on doing is looking through my resources. And so I tend to pull out all the scope and sequences for all the programs we're doing. And so this is HBLC, Science C, there's all our language arts, and then Science K, and HBLK. So this just gives me the scope and sequence of the plan of what we're doing. And additionally, I'll pop up kind of book lists. So I have my read aloud list. So these are not the readers, these are the read alouds for both programs. And I'm going to go through the list and I'm going to make note of ones that either are okay if we drop or could potentially be really good summer readers. Or they could be readers that my kids read later. Like I don't have to read them aloud. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to also look at all of our resources, be it science books or history or Bible books, and just kind of see if there's things that like, if I don't do this, it'll be okay. Maybe there's some overlapping resources. Maybe it's a unit that we did previously before we started Sonlight, so my kids know a lot about that already. I can earmark that on kind of a short list as to like, if we don't do this, it would be okay. Do you know what I mean? And that way, that gives me the breathing room to be able to assess my curriculum throughout the year and know what can be dropped for a season or just picked up later in the summer. And I want to pre-think it. So then it's not a panicky decision where then I feel guilt that I'm not doing a good job. It's a premeditated decision that if things get overwhelming, then this is my plan. I don't know if anybody else does this. I actually haven't heard of any other YouTubers sharing this, but I think that would really help me just in the current season of life with different health problems and just different things that I often get overwhelmed. And I need a plan for my overwhelm. So anyway, that's an important part of my yearly planning as well. So that's kind of my steps. Granted, I'm in the process of doing it. I just wanted to share it with you in case you're also kind of in summer prep mode and you wanted some inspiration or some ideas. These are the things I do. I'm also going to be doing a lot of getting the schoolroom ready, getting all my resources ready, prepping everything. And I think I'll be doing some kind of get it done with me type videos and take you along. So look for those come July so you can see how I'm organizing some things. But these are kind of bigger kind of prep, the curriculum type ideas. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you were able to get a few nuggets of inspiration as to how maybe you can prep this summer to really set yourself up for next year. And otherwise, just let me know some of your tips down below. I'm always kind of growing and changing. I don't do things the same way every year, but this is what I'm doing for this year. So I hope it was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to. And you guys, I'll see you in the next homeschool video. All right, take care. Bye.